From the return of Isekai Quartet and an isekai by the studio who brought us Code Geass, all the way to one of the most incredible looking anthology series to ever get animated, this is every isekai and fantasy anime coming out this season. As usual, let's start things off with the returning anime, first with Season 2 for Campfire Cooking in Another World. For those looking for more of that comfy setting combining isekai, cooking, comedy, and a bit of action, you can bet Season 2 has all of that. It's not really one of those shows you watch for the plot, but is instead a relaxing, feel-good anime to put on after work. Plus, with Studio Mappa being the ones to animate it, there's already a set level of expectations that comes from that. Next, we have Season 3 for Isekai Quartet, which, despite only being announced a few months ago, is slated for release in just a couple of weeks. It follows after the movie where the entire cast got isekai'd again, returning to the classroom setting we've come to love in the first two seasons. Now, some of you may have noticed how the cast has grown a bit, and that's because we're not quite a quartet anymore. The addition of Shield Hero made it a quintet, and now with Eminence and Shadow, the cast has expanded to a sextet. If the series keeps going the way it does, then this could very well turn out to be the most ambitious crossover ever. What really riles me up though is the fact that this is the only way we can get more Youjo Senki these days. I mean, it's been 8 years and still we haven't gotten any word on Season 2 yet. At this point, I've already accepted that we may never get it, but if Eminence and Shadow somehow turns out the same way too, then I think that's when we might need to riot. But anyway, if you're looking for the Avengers of Isekai, then this is the closest you're gonna get to it. Even if you've only watched a couple of these Isekai, I still can't recommend enough checking this out. The interactions are usually gold. Here we have Season 2 for Tales of Wedding Rings, the romance isekai where the main character needs to build his harem to win. Well, that's not exactly right, but as far as generic isekai with highlights on the ecchi go, you can really only expect so much from it. It wasn't the most memorable anime when Season 1 came out, so if it wasn't your cup of tea then it probably won't be now. I have read that the story gets pretty wild later on, but whether Season 2 can get there, I couldn't really tell ya. When it comes to just straight up fantasy, Let This Grieving Soul Retire returns with Part 2. Season 1 finished airing less than a year ago, so I imagine their plan was to always adapt to cours with the content. When it comes to what to expect, if you like Overlord and the way misunderstandings sometimes drive the plot, this dials that aspect up to 100. You might not like the protagonist and the way he acts, but I'm sure you can appreciate the comedy behind the events unfolding around him. It's almost like a sillier version of Eminence and Shadow. Other returning fantasy-adjacent series include the high-stakes battle tournament Record of Ragnarok, a brand new Digimon in the form of Beat Break, then Season 5 for the daily life of the Immortal King. Now, a lot of these anime are going to be split between streaming services, but rather than pay for multiple subscriptions to see them, what if I told you there was a way you can watch them right here on YouTube? Want to see One Punch Man Season 3 without needing Hulu or Disney? Well, with today's sponsor Surfshark, you can do just that. All you gotta do is connect to a server in Singapore, head to the YouTube channel Musasia, then instantly all the latest anime will be available. Shows that would have been split across North American streaming services are fully accessible here, simulcast with English subtitles, and best of all, free. So whether it's new seasonal anime like the isekai I'm about to talk about, or some of the best like Frieren and ReZero, Surfshark opens up access to all these official streaming services. It's certainly a more affordable and convenient way to watch anime. That's just one of the many uses Surfshark provides, along with secure access to 3,200 servers across as many devices as you want. Whether it be your phone, tablet, or laptop, everywhere you go you can protect yourself from ads, trackers, and malware. Its high speeds also make streaming and gaming super easy, so you don't even have to worry about lag while using it. Plus, with a 30-day money-back guarantee, you're more than welcome to test all this out for yourself. So whether it's to watch cheaper anime or secure yourself online more, be sure to get Surfshark at a discount using my link down in the description. That's surfshark.com/AniNewsVPN or code AniNewsVPN at checkout for 4 additional free months with your order. Now, our first isekai is A Wild Last Boss Appeared, A fairly popular series not for its deep plot or groundbreaking characters, but rather because it's just an extremely entertaining power fantasy. In the beginning, you might actually find it similar to Overlord, since not only is the protagonist a person who wakes up in the avatar of their favorite MMO character, they're also incredibly OP and find themselves inside their video game world for real. She then has her subordinates who are also strong, and together they seek out her old companions from 200 years ago, obviously affecting the world around them in the process. It's the development after that that's completely different from Overlord, since rather than simply accept that this is her life now, our protagonist asks a lot more of the why questions. This in turn develops a lot of the lore behind the world, and that makes this otherwise straightforward power fantasy a lot more interesting. So there's a lot more mystery and intrigue in this than you might expect, enough that I think it's worth checking out this season. Next we have Dad is a Hero, Mom is a Spirit, I'm a Reincarnator, the story of a girl whose parents are quite influential. Her father was the legendary hero who once saved the nation, while her mother is the primordial queen of the spirits. This results in her being capable of manipulating the elements of the periodic table, a fairly convenient skill considering in her past life she was a scientist. The villain is just some prince trying to seize the power of the spirits for himself, so you'd think with such an OP family, such a task would be difficult. I mean, I'm fully here for the idea of these powerful parents caring for their equally powerful daughter, but I feel this conflict might be a bit too easy for them. I'm sure the stakes will be established just fine, but for me, I don't think this is one I'm gonna watch this season. Here we have My Status as an Assassin obviously exceeds the heroes, a rare isekai from the studio who brought us Code Geass. Will it be as good as Code Geass? Well, with the novel and manga sitting at a solid 6.8, I think the animation is gonna need to do some serious heavy lifting here. That's not to say the story is bad or anything, it just seems like another typical power fantasy. It actually starts quite similar to Arifureta, minus all the edgy stuff and ever-growing harem. So, after being isekai'd alongside his fellow classmates, one in particular is given the role of hero. This makes our protagonist's assassin class seem rather lackluster, but in actuality it's stronger. It's from there our protagonist sets off on his own path, choosing an adventure most akin to that of a dark hero type. He starts to get involved with things he shouldn't. Now, I'm sure that seems like nothing new, but still I'm excited for it solely for the fact that Studio Sunrise is animating it. If anyone can turn a mid-story into something better, they're certainly the ones to do it. I'm hoping they can turn it into something like Eminence in Shadow. This is a gatherer's adventure in isekai, a truly generic one both in plot and animation. You've got our regular salaryman summoned into a fantasy world with OP powers, and it's those unconventional cheat skills that helps him get by. Toss in a powerful familiar and a quirky sidekick, and what you get is the standard adventure we've seen so many times before. I feel it's the type of show you watch when you've got nothing else to watch. Next we have a couple villainous anime, one that is an isekai and one that isn't. For the one that is an isekai, this is the dark history of the reincarnated Villainess, a manga turned anime from Studio Dean. In this, our protagonist was actually the writer of the story she's reincarnated into, making navigating the death flags quite easy for her. Where things start to change is when a character she never wrote about shows up. It then turns into that typical villainous stuff, plus the addition of the mystery regarding this new character. The other villainous anime is, may I ask for one final thing, a different take on the genre since it's a lot more aggressive. Literally. Our protagonist gets betrayed by the person she's supposed to marry, but rather than get sad or cry about it, she instead reverts back to her old ways as the Mad Dog Princess. What does the Mad Dog Princess do? Well, apparently she likes to fight a lot. So this isn't your typical reverse harem with a helpless princess avoiding death flags. It's a story about a true villainess who likes to knock people out. It actually looks pretty decent with a good blend of action, comedy, and romance. Now, an isekai you've probably never heard of but is actually massive is the first installment to the Disney Twisted Wonderland anime. This first started out as a mobile game created between Aniplex and Disney, but has since expanded into something incredibly popular. What is Twisted Wonderland then? Well, it's an exploration of Disney's villains, specifically through an academy and its 7 dorms each inspired by them. The first anime will focus on Alice in Wonderland, and the villain in question is the Queen of Hearts. The protagonist is your average Japanese college student, and the story centers around him as he navigates this storm inspired by Alice in Wonderland. So it's a really interesting premise with quite a lot of content to go off of. I've never played the game myself, but every time I'm at Anime Expo it always has a massive booth there. So it's definitely one of the more popular franchises. We'll just have to see if it can translate that into a popular anime. Now, last on our Isekai list is Potion Wagami wo Tasukeru, another relatively generic one centered on a protagonist who specializes in creating potions. This is what she uses to survive and eventually hopefully find a way back home somehow. This brings us now to our fantasy anime. First with Backstabbed in a Backwater Dungeon, my trusted companions tried to kill me, but thanks to the gift of an unlimited gacha, I got level 9,999 friends and am out for revenge on my former party members and the world. Yep, that is in fact the title. I think that sums up the plot pretty nicely though, so as a series that adds in that new element of gacha, it could be fun to watch just for the memes. Next is The Hero Who Has No Class, brought to us by the same studio who butchered the beginning after the end. That already is enough to make me uninterested, but when you look at the trailer, there's more frames here than in the entire season of TBAT. So perhaps they straightened up and started doing some work, but that still doesn't change the fact that this is, at its core, a rather generic fantasy. It's a story based in a world where classes are given at the age of 10, then the presence or absence of them will affect how one's life is lived. Our protagonist is, as you'd expect, classless, but as the son of the Sword Princess and the King of Magic, it seems he can get by with effort. This then makes it a classic underdog story where this character that's often looked down on is actually OP. It's certainly not anything groundbreaking, but I imagine it'll be entertaining for those who like this kind of stuff. This is the banished court magician aims to become the strongest, the classic premise we've seen more and more frequently lately. A powerful mage gets banished from the party he used to fight in and decides to start a new adventure with his old party. From what I've read, it's not your typical one-man show like how anime like this normally are. His friends also play a pretty big role too. So if you're looking for a fantasy with a good dynamic and balance between its characters, this one might be worth checking out for you. It's after this that we get to a couple fantasy that you've probably never heard of. First with Past the Monster Meat My Lady. In a fantasy world where nobles shun her for her obsession with cooking and eating monster meat, our protagonist meets a duke with whom she can bond over her eccentric cuisine with. After his Monster Strike Dead vs. Reloaded, a continued adaptation of a mobile game centering around giant kaiju battles. Now, this last fantasy I would say falls more into the supernatural category as it covers 8 one-shots written by the man himself, Tatsuki Fujimoto. For those that don't know who he is, he's the same person who wrote Chainsaw Man. So these are the works he wrote between the ages of 17 and 26, and each I promise will be as crazy or even crazier than Chainsaw Man. Some of you may know him better for Goodbye Eri, which I would imagine will be getting its own adaptation in the future. For now, I'm super excited to see how these turn out. The trailer looks absolutely crazy, and the animation stellar from all the studios taking part. It's kinda like Star Wars Visions where each one-shot is handled by someone different. Speaking of which, for other anime worth checking out this season, I have Star Wars Visions Volume 3, the anime version of Among Us Nosha, then the post-apocalyptic adventure Dusk Beyond the End of the World. That's pretty much all I've got to share though, so let me know which, if any, that you plan on watching. For me, it's gonna be the Assassin one. Now, before I go, I just want to shout out this official collaboration I got to do with Solo Leveling. If you're looking for high-quality streetwear with Sung, Chahain, or The Shadows, then feel free to check out what we made using the link down in the description. But anyway, if you liked the video then leave a like, and if you want to see more consider subscribing. Until next time though, ciao!